Hi, my name is Jocelyn Boone, and I am currently enrolled in the Health Professions LEAP 1140 course at the University of Utah. I am a freshman and studying to become a nurse. For my symposium project, I wanted to learn more about how certain individuals have been impacted from this COVID 19 pandemic, specifically elementary school students. My research question was: how has elementary students been impacted by the COVID 19 pandemic in online learning? For this research project to come together, I interviewed my sixth grade sister, as well as used peer reviewed articles from the Marriott Library. These sources included information based on arising issues that came from the COVID 19 pandemic and how it has impacted elementary students in their switch to online learning. For this slide, I chose a quote from the book The Plague by Albert Camus. The quote I chose was: "It was wrong to say, 'This I understand, but that I cannot accept.' We must go straight to the heart of that which is unacceptable, precisely because it is thus that we are constrained to make our choices. The suffering of children were our bread of affliction, but without this bread our souls would die of spiritual hunger." I chose this quote because it gives a background eye-opener on how important our children are to us. This quote is saying that without the children, our souls would die, and this is in fact the case in real life. Our children do so much for us, and the way they are currently learning is going to play a role in how the world runs when they grow up. To start my research project off, I'll be discussing three main big issues regarding the COVID 19 pandemic. My thesis for this project was: due to lack of material, less aid from teachers, and social withdrawal during COVID 19 pandemic, many elementary students' learning growth has been greatly affected. When the pandemic started, it happened very unexpectedly. No one was prepared for it, and because of this, elementary students took a great fall. They did not have access to the proper material they should have been given. Along with this, with what materials they were given and the time away from school, teachers were hard to contact. This all falls back to the idea of social withdrawal and how it has played a role in the pandemic and online learning. This pandemic has caused an insanely great amount of issues. When all these issues come together, it creates a very harsh environment for the students, specifically elementary students, to learn and develop. All of these issues pile up and create a domino effect that will then impact the students down the road. To begin my research project, I will begin talking about lack of materials. Before COVID first began, students would be found sitting at a table or desk surrounded by fellow classmates. Now that we are in a year of COVID, you can find children any place you can think of. My sister, who is a sixth grader at West Kearns Elementary, now sits on the couch hunched over with the Chromebook in her lap. Each student was given a laptop and a charger that they were able to take home. Although this helped out the families that didn't have access to these things, there were many cases where the Chromebooks never worked. I know both my brother and sister ran into the problems where their laptop would freeze in the middle of a test and they would have to restart their work. When I interviewed my sister, I asked how she was doing in school. Her response was, "Mostly bad because sometimes it," meaning the Chromebook, "freezes." I then asked her how online school is, and again she responded the same way. She explained, "It is hard online because sometimes it freezes and would log me out in the middle of a test." Because of this issue my sister ran into, it made her very frustrated. My parents were able to get the school to approve paper packets to help reduce the amount of both technical and mental issues. The sticky note shown in the slide was used by my sister when she had run out of extra paper to show her work. Kendra Middleton, a professor at Howard University, did a study about the long-term impacts on K through 12 students. Middleton explains how students can actually fall behind if they are not given certain materials such as a quiet, warm place free of interruptions. This is the case for many students, and I see this issue firsthand with my own siblings. Another big issue elementary students are facing is they are losing their social life. When I interviewed my sister Chloe, she definitely had an opinion on this particular topic. When I asked her what the difference between online school versus regular school was, she said, "Online school, I can't talk to most of my friends, and regular school, I could talk to most of my friends." This particular quote she said stood out to me because as an 11-year-old student, she has noticed small changes in who she can and can't talk to. Dr. Susumu Higuchi conducted an experiment about prolonged internet use during the COVID-19 pandemic. His results were very shocking and unexpected as he came to the conclusion that social withdrawal was higher in the stay at home phase and many people experienced a day night reversal. Since people had to stay at home and were not allowed to leave, you could not talk to very many people. You're mainly limited to direct family, and if you could talk to anyone else, it was through a phone. While people had to stay at home, it messed up their sleeping schedules so bad that their day and nights actually got turned around. Instead of many people sleeping at night, they were actually staying up and then sleeping during the day. My sister is actually one individual that was affected by this. Because students are not hanging around with very many people, some of them are starting to lack motivation, according to Pub, a professor at the University of London. When you see your peers doing their work, you're more likely to do your work. This is not the case when you're at home because you don't usually have someone the same age as you in the house. Me and my sister are 7 years apart and we hardly see each other. Pre-COVID phase, she wasn't too excited when she would see me. Because she's not getting all the social time she needs, she always gets a big smile on her face when she sees me. Since the pandemic started and everything was switching to online school, it was very hard for the teachers to help one of their students. When they were in the classroom, the teacher had easy access to all students. This is not the case due to the pandemic. An educational researcher, Megan Cuffield, reported that there was a national survey conducted on teachers during Education Week. In this survey, it was conducted that only 39% of teachers actually interact with their students at least once per day. This is less than half the teachers throughout the area, so you can only imagine how worse it gets the more you calculate. When I asked Chloe if it had been more problematic or about the same when it comes to getting help from family and or teachers, her response was, "It was easier to get help from my family, but sometimes I couldn't reach my teacher." When this comes from an elementary student, then you know something is really going on. Elementary students should be the individuals with the most aid coming their way because of their young age. They should not have to worry about whether they have to struggle to complete their homework that was assigned to them. It is really hard for students to complete their homework that was given to them when the teachers themselves are still trying to figure out how to adapt to the new teaching system they are unfamiliar with. While the teachers are learning how to adapt and the students are learning to learn, they are doing so in unstable homes. Students who were once brought out of the homes are now forced to stay in toxic households. There has been an increase in food security, domestic violence, and child abuse since the pandemic and online learning started. Since the pandemic, parents have lost their jobs and or being forced to work from home. This has made it extremely difficult for the working parents to take care of their children and students. When you work from home, you don't have any time to watch your children because you're supposed to be in work mode. This causes issues because if the student needs help and the teacher's not responding, you as a parent or sibling will most likely be the one who gets bugged. While the students are stuck at home, it allows them to get more power to abuse the internet. Higuchi explains that they have easy access to games, and this has caused a 71.3% increase in internet and a 52.5% increase in gaming time. With all of the time spent on the internet, it has started to cause functional impairment changes. Their response time is getting slower to the excessive amount of time spent on the internet and gaming. There has been a drastic change in schoolwork from online to in person. Normally, when you take a test, you have the teacher watching everyone to make sure everything is going smoothly. Because everything is online, it is very hard to do so. This can cause misleading information in test scores if cheating occurs. This also makes it difficult for the teachers and schools to properly track students' academic growth. While a teacher is trying to look over the students, they are constantly being nagged on by the parents and staff. Since COVID started, they are turning into the new therapists, as many would call it. This can cause a lot of stress for everyone all around and creates a domino effect. If the stress from the parents is put on the teachers, then the students get the end of it because they are the last resort. This picture shown in the slide is of the inside of Chloe's backpack. Normally it would be organized, but with how stressed she has been and the time spent at home, you never know what she has in there. To conclude my argument, it is evident to say that there is lack of materials which is causing students to fall more behind in school. The fact that the teachers were not prepared does not help the situation due to the fact that they are not staying in contact with the students and families as much as they should. The stay at home measure has also played a big role in social withdrawal and making it so individuals have no social life like everyone needs. With all of this information, it is safe to say that elementary students' learning growth has been greatly impacted negatively during the COVID-19 pandemic. This is Alyssa. We're excited. Thank you again for your time, and thank you to my sister Chloe for letting me interview you.